The suburban street was quiet that Tuesday afternoon until Officer Jake Martinez knocked on door number 42. A man answered with a smile too wide, a greeting too eager, and behind him stood a little girl who hadn't made a sound. She didn't wave, didn't hide, didn't do any of the things 7-year-olds normally do when police arrive. Then as her stepfather turned to invite the officer inside, her small hand moved. 3 fingers tucked, 2 extended, held against her chest for barely 2 seconds. A silent signal, a desperate plea coded in a gesture most people would never recognize. But Officer Martinez wasn't most people. Instantly, his posture changed. His casual demeanor vanished. Every instinct from 15 years on the force suddenly screamed that something was catastrophically wrong. He smiled back at the stepfather, but his hand drifted toward his radio. Trained officers don't ignore signals taught in child safety programs. They don't walk away when a child's eyes scream what her voice cannot. But the fear in this little girl's eyes said everything the normal scene tried to hide. Why would a 7-year-old know a distress signal meant for victims who can't speak freely? Within minutes, Officer Martinez would uncover a truth so devastating it would turn a routine welfare check into a fight for a child's life. Stay with us because what happened next will restore your faith in those who refuse to look away.
Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. And if this story moves you, please subscribe and follow the journey until the very end. Let's see how far this story travels together.
Officer Daniel Martinez pulled his patrol car to the curb, the engine's rumble fading into the quiet hum of Maple Street. The radio crackled one last time. Welfare check, 428 Maple. Anonymous caller reports concern for a minor. Before he stepped out into the afternoon heat, the dispatcher's voice had carried an edge he'd learned to recognize over 12 years on the force. That tightness that said this one mattered. The house stood before him, modest but proud. 2 stories of cream-colored siding, black shutters framing windows that gleamed in the sunlight. A front lawn trimmed with the kind of precision that spoke of care. It didn't fit. Maple Street was his beat, and he knew its rhythms. The houses that drew calls were usually marked by peeling paint, overgrown yards, the visible decay of lives coming apart. And this place looked like it belonged in a different neighborhood entirely. Martinez's hand drifted instinctively to his belt, not to his weapon, but to his radio, a habit born of caution. His boots scraped against the concrete walkway as he approached, eyes scanning the windows for movement, for shadows, for anything that might explain the knot forming in his gut. The curtains in the front window hung perfectly still. No car in the driveway, no toys scattered on the porch. He'd learned long ago that the cleanest facades sometimes hid the darkest truths. The dispatcher's urgency echoed in his mind as he reached the door, his knuckles hovering just inches from the wood. Something wasn't right here. The door swung open before Martinez could knock, and a man filled the frame, tall, clean-shaven, and wearing a polo shirt tucked neatly into khaki pants. His smile was wide, practiced, the kind that came too quickly. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. I was just telling my wife someone must have misunderstood. Please, come in. Come in. Can I get you some coffee? Water? It's hot out there." Marcus Brennan stepped aside, gesturing with both hands, his movements expansive and eager. Martinez stayed on the porch. "Sir, I'm responding to a welfare check. I'll need to see everyone in the household." Of course, Marcus laughed, but it rang hollow. "That's completely understandable. It's just me and my daughter today. My wife said her sisters. You know how it is. Family drama." He waved a hand dismissively. "But seriously, everything's fine here. Probably just a neighbor overreacting. Mrs. Chen next door. She means well, but she worries about everything." The words tumbled out too fast, and answers to questions Martinez hadn't asked yet. Overcompensation. He'd seen it 100 times. The guilty conscience that couldn't bear silence, that filled every gap with explanations nobody requested. "I appreciate that, Mr. Brennan," Martinez said, his tone flat and professional. "Still need to see your daughter. Standard procedure." Marcus's smile flickered, just for a heartbeat. "Right now? She's upstairs doing homework. I hate to interrupt her. Now, please." The air between them crystallized, Civility stretched thin over something darker. Marcus's jaw tightened before the smile returned, brittle as glass. She appeared at the top of the stairs like a ghost, small and pale against the dark hallway behind her. 7 years old, maybe 8, and with tangled brown hair and eyes too wide, too watchful. Martinez had 3 daughters of his own, and he knew what childhood fear looked like. The way it lived in the shoulders, in the shallow breathing, in the silence that screamed louder than words. "Lily, sweetheart, come say hello to Officer Martinez," Marcus called up, his voice dripping false warmth. "See? Everything's just fine." The girl descended slowly, one hand trailing along the banister, her bare feet soundless on the carpeted steps. She wore pajamas at 3 in the afternoon, faded pink with cartoon cats, one sleeve torn at the shoulder. Her gaze locked onto Martinez, searching, desperate, and he felt the air thicken around him. "Hi there," he said gently, crouching slightly to meet her at eye level. "I'm Officer Martinez, just checking to make sure." Marcus moved then, he stepping between them. "Okay, you've seen her. She's fine. Now if we could—" That's when Lily's hand came up, fingers spread wide then arranged deliberately, thumb tucked, pinky down, 3 fingers pointing skyward. The signal, the one schools had been teaching for 2 years, the silent scream designed for moments exactly like this. Martinez's pulse hammered against his ribs, but his face remained stone. He straightened slowly, never breaking eye contact with the little girl who just told him everything without saying a word. "Mr. Brennan," he said quietly, "I'm going to need you to step outside with me." Martinez pulled his notepad from his breast pocket with deliberate slowness, clicking his pen twice. "Just need to verify some information for my report." "Full legal name?" "Marcus James Brennan." The words came tight, clipped. "Is this really necessary? I've been cooperative. Date of birth? Current address?" Martinez scribbled, his eyes tracking Lily as she stood frozen near the stairs, a statue of a child. "Anyone else residing at this address?" "My wife, Sarah. She's visiting her sister in Portland." Marcus shifted his weight, blocking Martinez's view of his daughter. "Officer, I have a conference call in 20 minutes. Phone number where I can reach her?" A pause, just a fraction too long. "She left her cell here, charging upstairs." Martinez nodded slowly, scanning the living room past Marcus's shoulder. The space was immaculate. Throw pillows arranged with mathematical precision, vacuum lines still visible in the carpet. Not a single toy or book out of place. The kind of clean that came from fear, not pride. His own house, full of girls and life, never looked like this. "Lily," he said, raising his voice slightly, "can you tell me—" Marcus flinched, a subtle jerk that sent Lily stumbling backward into the banister. She caught herself, arms wrapping around her ribs, and Martinez saw it then, the way she made herself smaller. The practiced, disappearing act of a child who'd learned that existing too loudly brought consequences. "She's shy with strangers," Marcus said quickly, sweat beating at his temples despite the air conditioning. "Aren't you, sweetheart?" The girl said nothing. Martinez wrote faster, buying time. Marcus excused himself to retrieve his identification, muttering something about his wallet being in the kitchen. The moment his back turned, Martinez dropped to one knee, bringing himself level with the trembling girl. "Lily," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Are you safe?" Her eyes filled with tears that didn't fall, years of practice keeping them damned behind sheer will. She glanced toward the kitchen doorway, then back to Martinez, and leaned forward. Her breath was hot against his ear, 4 words that stopped his heart. "He hurt my mommy." Every muscle in Martinez's body went rigid. 15 years of training screamed at him to stay calm, follow protocol, call for backup, secure the scene. But the father in him, the part that tucked his own daughters into bed every night, wanted to tear through this house right now. "Where is she?" he breathed. Lily's gaze drifted upward, toward the second floor, toward the hallway that disappeared into darkness at the top of the stairs. Her lips trembled, but no more words came. They didn't need to. The footsteps echoed from the kitchen. Marcus returning. Martinez stood, positioning himself between the man and the child, his hands settling on his radio. The decision crystallized with absolute clarity. This wasn't a welfare check anymore. This was a crime scene, and somewhere upstairs a woman might be running out of time. "Mr. Brennan," Martinez said, his voice carrying new authority, "I need you to remain in the living room. Don't move." "I need to see your wife," Martinez said, his hand already keying the radio. "Policy requires visual confirmation of all residents." Marcus's mask shattered. The friendly neighbor vanished, replaced by something cold and cornered. "She's sleeping. I told you, she's not feeling well." "Then we'll be quiet." Martinez stepped toward the stairs. "This isn't a request, Mr. Brennan." Marcus moved fast, was surprisingly fast for a man his size, planting himself at the base of the staircase. His face had gone red, veins bulging at his temples. "You can't just barge through my house without a warrant. I know my rights." "Dispatch 1078, send back up to 428 Maple Street." Martinez spoke into his radio, never taking his eyes off Marcus. "Possible 1054, requesting immediate assistance." "You bastard," Marcus hissed. "You're going to ruin everything over nothing." Martinez shouldered past him, taking the stairs two at a time. Behind him, he heard Lily's small gasp, heard Marcus swearing, heard the heavy footfalls pursuing. The hallway stretched ahead, doors closed on both sides. He tried the first. Bathroom, empty. The second, child's bedroom, undisturbed. The third door stood slightly ajar. He pushed it open, and his breath caught. Sarah Brennan lay crumpled beside the bed, one arm bent at an unnatural angle, dark bruises blooming across her face and neck. Her chest rose and fell, shallow, labored, but breathing. "Sarah!" Martinez dropped beside her, fingers finding her pulse, weak but present. Behind him, Marcus filled the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Step back," Martinez commanded, his hand moving to his weapon. "Now!" The gun appeared from Marcus's waistband, a black revolver that caught the hallway light. "Get out of my house!" Lily's scream tore through the air, high and sharp and endless. Martinez's world narrowed to the weapon's barrel, to the man's shaking hand, to the little girl pressed against the wall behind him. His own service weapon remained holstered. Drawing now would escalate. I would turn this standoff into a shootout with a child in the crossfire. "Marcus, listen to me." Martinez raised both hands slowly, stepping backward into the hallway, placing himself between the gun and Lily. His thumb had already hit the emergency button on his radio. Dispatch would hear everything now. Backup would be screaming toward this address. "You don't want to do this. Think about what happens next." "Shut up! Just shut up!" Marcus's voice cracked, the gun wavering. "This is my family, my house. You had no right. Your wife needs a hospital, Marcus, right now." Martinez kept his voice level, calm, even as adrenaline flooded his system. "Let me help her. Let me get Lily somewhere safe. Then we talk." "There's nothing to talk about." Sweat poured down Marcus's face. "Sarah fell. She fell down the stairs, that's all. An accident." Lily sobbed behind Martinez, her small body trembling against his leg. In the distance, sirens began their wail. Marcus heard them too. His eyes went wild, the gun rising higher. "You called them. You..." "Easy," Martinez breathed. "Easy now." Seconds felt like hours. The front door exploded inward with a crack that shook the walls. Boots thundered across the first floor, heavy, synchronized, purposeful. "Police! Drop the weapon!" Marcus's head snapped toward the stairs, his attention fracturing for just a heartbeat. Martinez didn't hesitate. He grabbed Lily, lifting her bodily against his chest, and lunged sideways into the child's bedroom, kicking the door shut behind them. "Don't look," he whispered into her hair as she buried her face in his shoulder. "Don't look, sweetheart. You're okay now." The hallway erupted. Shouting voices overlapped. Commands, warnings, Marcus's desperate protests. Something crashed. Martinez heard the distinctive sound of a weapon hitting carpet, then the heavy scuffle of bodies, handcuffs clicking into place. "Clear! Suspect in custody! We need EMTs upstairs now!" Martinez carried Lily out into the chaos, Tactical officers in dark uniforms filled the narrow hallway, one of them pinning Marcus face down while another secured his wrists. The gun lay against the baseboard, harmless now. Past them, paramedics were already working on Sarah, checking vitals, stabilizing her neck, loading her onto a stretcher with practiced efficiency. Officer Jennifer Reyes appeared, her face gentle despite the tactical vest. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly, opening a silver emergency blanket. "I'm Jen. Can I hold you for a bit? Officer Martinez needs to help your mama." Lily transferred into Reyes's arms, the blanket wrapping around her small frame. "You're safe now," Reyes murmured, carrying her toward the stairs. "You're safe. He can't hurt you anymore." The house that had been a tomb moments before now buzzed with life, with purpose, with rescue. 3 days later, Martinez stood in the hospital corridor holding a stuffed bear that his youngest daughter had insisted Lily needed. Through the window of room 347, he could see Sarah Brennan propped against pillows, her arm in a cast, bruises fading from purple to yellow. Beside her bed sat an older woman with Lily's same brown eyes, the grandmother who'd taken emergency custody. And there was Lily, curled in the chair by the window, a coloring book spread across her lap. She looked up when he knocked, and then something like relief crossed her small face. "Officer Martinez brought you something," Sarah said gently, her voice still hoarse. Lily took the bear carefully, clutching it against her chest. For a long moment, she just stared at him, then so quietly he almost missed it. "Thank you for seeing it. My signal." Martinez crouched beside her chair, his throat tight. "You saved your mom's life, Lily. You were so brave." "I was scared." "Brave people are always scared," he said. "That's what makes it brave." Her grandmother's hand found Lily's shoulder, squeezing gently. Sarah wiped at her eyes with her good hand. They had miles to go. Therapy, court dates, custody hearings, the slow rebuild of broken lives. But they were alive. They were together. They were safe. That evening, Martinez returned to patrol, when driving the familiar streets of his beat as the sun set orange and gold. His eyes scanned differently now, sharper, more attuned to the spaces between words, to the signs that spoke without sound. Sometimes the most urgent messages came in silence, and he would never stop listening.